Good morning, grade 4s. I hope you are well. Today we are going to be doing English, so I want you to get your English workbook ready for me. So the first thing we are going to look at is figures of speech or figurative language. So the first one under figures of speech is assonance. Now, assonance is the repetition of identical or similar vowel sounds in a series of words or phrases. So let's quickly revise what vowels are there. So the vowels are A, E, I, O, and U. Okay, so now assonance is the repetition of these vowel sounds in words, right? So for example, clap your hands and stamp your feet. Do you see the A's repeated? So there's no specific space or place for the A to be. It doesn't matter if it's in the beginning, middle, or end of the word. Okay, it's just because it is the same vowel sound. Then another one, try to light the fire. Now, this is a good example because it's not the same letter. It does not have to be the same letter. It just needs to sound like the same letter, okay? And then once again in this one, it beats as it sweeps, as it cleans. Is a good example. Once again, it's not spelled exactly the same, but it sounds the same. Now let's move to the poster. So the first one on the poster is a simile. Now, simile is the comparison of two things using the words like or as. So for example, this room is as hot as an oven. So they use the word as in there, and that makes it a simile. So comparing anything in a sentence, and that sentence has the word like or as in it, it is a simile. The next one is a hyperbole. Now, hyperbole is the exaggeration of something. So, for example, I am so hungry, I could eat a horse. So, it's exaggerating how hungry you are, or saying it is so hot, it feels like I am melting, is another hyperbole. Then the next one is personification. Now, personification is giving human characteristics to an object or an animal. So, for example, the tree danced in the wind. So, what are we seeing? We are seeing a tree moving back and forth because of the wind that is blowing, right? And it looks like the tree is dancing. So, when we say something that is non-human, so objects or animals are, and we give them human characteristics like dancing, we call that personification. Then the next one is onomatopoeia. Now, this is a big word for actually something really simple. Now, the use of a word to make a sound. So, for example, pop, boom, or fizz. So, when we throw in a little soda in a glass, the sound that it makes is fizz. It fizz, right? Now, the actual sound, if you had to listen to it, it makes that sound that you actually say. The same with the word, the bees are buzzing. The buzzing, it is actually how it sounds as the bees fly by us. It is a buzzing sound. So it's the actual sound for the word, okay? Then the next one is alliteration. Now this is almost like the opposite of assonance. So this is the repetition of the same beginning sound of a word. Now this is only used for consonants, okay? Now what is consonants? It's the rest of the alphabet when we take out the vowels, right? So for example, 7 snakes slithered slyly. Now, remember, it's also in the beginning of the word. Okay, in the beginning of the word, not like assonance. Assonance, the vowels can be anywhere in the word, but with alliteration, it's in the beginning of the word. Then the next one, and also the last one, is a metaphor. Now, a metaphor is the comparison of two things, saying that one thing is or was similar to another thing, like the room is an oven. So a metaphor and a simile is almost the same thing. So it's basically comparing two things. But with a simile, when we use as or like in that sentence, it becomes a simile. But when we take out the as or like, in this room is an oven, it changes to a metaphor. Okay. Now let's have a look at the next activity. So this is the first activity that you have to do. It's a poem. So you can just have a look. You don't have to print it out at all. You can just have a look at the poem. So this is a simile poem, okay? And the heading is senses. So the name of the poem is senses. Let's read it together. Sadness is as happy as laughter. You might cry because it hurts. You might laugh because it hurts. But I know one thing. Laughter is laughter, and sadness is sadness. They can show the same things, like hurting and gladness. Okay, So that's a beautiful little poem. Now you will see there's a couple of questions. Now these questions, once again, you can just answer them. You don't need to have the questions in your book at all. So let's quickly read. The first question is, what is the title of the poem? Now that's pretty easy. Number 2, what is the poem about? Now I want you to actually write what you think the poem is about. You're in your own words, like a whole sentence, okay? Then number 3, what type of poem is this? Now a hint, it says at the top of the poem what type of poem it is. Then number 4, you're going to explain to me what is a simile. And number 5, you're going to identify one simile in the poem. Now remember, when we identify a simile, we look for the words like or as, and then comparing two things, right? Now the last activity you have to do is a comparative activity. Now this is a page that is in your purple file. It's a small page with a panda on. So basically what it says, you need to remember when we compare 3 or more things, we use the word most. When we compare 2 or more things, we use the word more. Now let me do an example with you. Let's do the first one together. So the first one is, football is space dangerous than golf. So football and golf. So that is 2 things. Now let's quickly remember, comparing 2 things, we use the word more. So then we write in that space the word more. Football is more dangerous than golf. Now let's look at the second one. Spaghetti is the space wonderful meal there is. So it's comparing spaghetti to all of the other meals that there is ever. So that is definitely more than 3, right? So comparing 3 or more things, we use the word most. Now let's write most in that sentence. Spaghetti is the most wonderful meal there is. Now you can have a look and try the rest of them. It's pretty simple. Just keep in mind, when do we use more and when do we use most? So that is the end of English for today. If you have any questions, remember